Most drivers think a dead battery starts with an old battery. That's the lie. They think if the car struggles in the morning, if the dash flickers, if the locks start acting weird, if the push button start suddenly feels lazy, then the battery must be weak, the alternator must be failing, or some mysterious electrical issue must be lurking somewhere under the hood. And sometimes that's true, but sometimes the battery is not the real problem at all. Sometimes the real problem is that your car never truly goes to sleep. And if you drive a Japanese vehicle, especially one with smart entry, push-button start, or an always-listening keyless system, there is a hidden trick buried in the manual that most owners never use, most salespeople never explain, and many drivers don't even know exists. It costs absolutely nothing. No gadget, no fluid, no scanner, no dealership visit, no new battery, no premium inspection package, nothing, just one hidden factory function. And once you understand what it does, you start realizing how many people have been replacing batteries, blaming cold weather, or buying accessories when the car itself already came with a built-in answer. That's the part nobody talks about, because modern cars are not really off the way old cars were off. Old cars shut down, newer cars wait, they listen, they ping, they watch for a key nearby, they keep convenience systems ready, they stay alert for touch entry signals, remote entry signals, and low-level communication between the vehicle and the key fob. That sounds harmless, but harmless is exactly how silent battery drain starts. Not with a dramatic failure, not with smoke, not with a warning light. It starts with tiny electrical activity repeated over and over all night, every week, especially when the car sits, especially when a spare key is stored too close to the vehicle, and especially when the owner assumes parked means inactive. That assumption is what gets people. Toyota's own owner materials explicitly describe an electronic key battery saving mode, and one Toyota manual summary says that when battery saving mode is set, battery depletion is minimized by stopping the electronic key from receiving radio waves. Another Toyota owner reference says the battery saving function exists to help prevent depletion of the electronic key battery and even the vehicle's 12-volt battery in equipped vehicles. That is not rumor. That is not internet folklore. That is the manufacturer telling you the function exists for a reason. Now pause there, because this is where most people miss the bigger story. When a manufacturer quietly includes a battery saving mode inside the key system itself that tells you something important, the convenience system is not passive. It is active enough that engineers built a separate low-consumption strategy for it. In other words, the car and key relationship is useful, but it is not free. There is always a small electrical cost to convenience. And Japanese brands seem to understand this better than most owners do. Mazda is even more direct. In its official owner manual, Mazda says that by turning on the power-saving function of the key, the advanced keyless entry and the function to start the engine without removing the key from your pocket or case are turned off, and the battery power consumption of the key can be reduced. Then Mazda goes a step further and gives the exact button sequence to switch that mode on and off. That is not a hidden mechanic hack. That is a built-in factory feature hiding in plain sight. And Subaru? Same story, same buried logic. Subaru manual material describes a battery-saving function meant to prevent the access key battery and the vehicle battery from being discharged while the vehicle is not being used. Separate Subaru documentation also notes that the keyless access entry function can be disabled, with dealer guidance provided for the details. Again, the pattern is obvious. The system is convenient, but the factory knows it can be managed, reduced, or partially shut down when necessary. So what is the secret Japanese trick? Simple. When the car is going to sit, or when a spare key is stored, or when unexplained battery weakness keeps showing up, you stop treating the smart key like a magic rock and start treating it like a radio device. You use the built-in battery saving mode, power saving mode, or keyless disable function the manufacturer already gave you. That's it. That's the trick. No purchase, no magic fluid, no miracle tool, no dealer software, just using the mode your car already has. And yes, that sounds almost too boring to be powerful, but boring is exactly why people ignore it, because people are trained to believe every useful fix must be expensive. If it doesn't come in a box, if it doesn't involve a scan tool, if it doesn't sound technical, then they assume it can't matter. Meanwhile, the engineer who wrote the owner's manual already solved part of the problem years ago. Think about how absurd that is. People will spend hundreds on a new battery, then another 100 on diagnosis, then maybe more on parasitic draw testing, while the spare key is still hanging 3 feet from the car inside the house, or sitting in a drawer by the garage wall, or left constantly active in a range where the vehicle and key can keep trying to talk to each other. That's not just expensive, that's avoidable. And before someone says, come on, a key fob can't matter that much, listen carefully. Nobody is saying a key mode will cure every bad battery. It won't. If your battery is old, damaged, sulfated, or if the vehicle has a real parasitic draw fault, this feature is not a miracle cure. But that's exactly why it matters, because it helps eliminate a hidden variable most owners never even think to test. That is what smart troubleshooting looks like. You remove the silent drain sources first. You use the free factory setting first. You stop feeding the problem before you start buying parts. Mazda's instructions are especially revealing because they show how intentionally the system was designed. The manual states that even with power saving turned on, the remote control buttons still work, but the advanced keyless entry and pocket start convenience are disabled and the key's battery consumption is reduced. In plain English, the car stops behaving like the key is always hovering nearby in full convenience mode. That's the switch most drivers never flip. Toyota's documentation points in the same direction. Toyota describes setting the electronic key to battery-saving mode to reduce key battery depletion, and another Toyota owner reference explains that the mode minimizes depletion by stopping the electronic key from receiving radio waves. That language matters because it shows this is not superstition. It is a radio management feature. Now let's make this practical. Imagine two identical cars parked for 4 days. Car number 1 gets parked normally. The owner tosses the keys on a hook near the garage entry wall. A spare key is sitting in a bowl in the kitchen near the driveway-facing side of the house. The vehicle's convenience systems remain in their normal listening behavior. Car number 2 gets parked, but the owner places the spare key in battery-saving mode, stores it farther from the car, and if the brand allows it, disables or reduces keyless convenience when the car is going to sit. Which car is more likely to be truly resting? That's not a trick question. The second car is simply creating fewer opportunities for background communication, fewer convenience wake-ups, and less needless battery activity. Maybe the difference is small over one night, fine, but battery issues are often cumulative. Small, repeated losses are exactly how people end up confused weeks later. That is why this matters. Not because it looks dramatic in 1 hour, because it quietly stacks advantages over time. And here's where the dealer is hiding this angle becomes more interesting than the usual clickbait version. I don't think there's a secret boardroom meeting where dealers decide to suppress key battery saving mode. It's worse than that. It's ignored because it doesn't make noise. It doesn't sound sexy. It doesn't sell a part. It doesn't create a service invoice. It's a manual-based behavior change, and behavior changes are harder to monetize than replacement parts. So the average owner never gets trained to think this way. They get trained to react after failure. Japanese engineering often works the opposite way. It assumes the owner will use systems intelligently, preserve components early, and avoid waste before it turns into damage. Hidden convenience settings, battery-saving modes, suspension of always searching key functions. These are not glamorous features. They're discipline features. They reward the driver who reads, tests, notices, and adjusts. That's why only a tiny percentage of drivers actually use them, not because the information is top secret, but because most people never look where the truth is stored. In the manual, in the settings, in the buried footnote, in the step sequence nobody memorized at delivery. So here's the move. Tonight, before you buy anything, before you panic, before you blame winter, before you schedule a battery test, do this. Take your spare key and look up whether your model has battery saving mode, power saving function, or a way to disable keyless access when parked. If you drive a Toyota, Mazda, or Subaru with a smart entry style system, there is a very good chance the answer is yes, though names and procedures vary by model and year. If it's a Mazda type setup, the official procedure shown in the manual is straightforward. Press the lock button 4 times within 3 seconds, then press and hold the lock button for 2 seconds or longer while the indicator light is on. The manual says the hazard lights and warning sound will operate once, and the power saving function is turned on. Same basic sequence turns it off. That is exactly the kind of thing most owners would never discover accidentally. Then move that spare key farther away from the vehicle. Not sort of farther, actually farther. Not the mudroom next to the garage wall. Not the shelf by the driveway. Not the pocket of the jacket hanging beside the entry door. Farther. Then monitor the car over several days. Not emotionally, logically. Does the morning crank improve? Do the weird electrical hesitations calm down? Does the battery hold up better during periods of non-use? If yes, then you just found one layer of the problem without spending $1. And if the symptoms do not improve, that's still useful, because now you've ruled out one hidden contributor and can investigate the real fault with cleaner logic. That's what makes this trick powerful. It helps even when it doesn't fix everything, because it sharpens the diagnosis. And that is something almost nobody talks about online anymore. People want miracle solutions. Real maintenance is usually quieter than that. Real maintenance is often subtractive. You remove waste, you remove unnecessary activity, you remove a hidden drain. And when you do that, the machine lasts longer, not because you added magic, but because you stopped feeding the problem. That's the real Japanese philosophy hiding underneath all this. not buy this miracle product, not install this gimmick, not trust the warning light and pray. Just use the system the engineers already designed exactly when it makes sense to use it. A free function built into the vehicle's ecosystem, ignored by most, useful to the few who bother to learn it. So no, the secret is not some mysterious black box hack. The secret is that your car may already have a sleep strategy, and almost nobody is using it. That's why 99% of drivers keep chasing symptoms, and the 1% quietly prevent them.